Hello everyone and welcome to the 14th episode of my Forza Flashback series. Now this is actually a very special episode because unlike all my other videos in this series, we aren't actually going to be focusing on what I'm doing during the race. And the reason for that is that it would just quite simply bore you to tears. If you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know that once I'm generally in the lead, I tend not to give it up. And that's what happens in this race. I get into the lead, as you'll see on this first lap, and I just cruise to the win from there on out. But the reason that I've actually, put up this race and done a commentary over it and focused on it is because there's so many more stories to tell from all the other participants. Normally in each of my videos I will just post up my race from my perspective, and normally that's just entertaining enough. But when I actually looked at this race back and I thought, well, why did I actually save this, because it's just so boring, I looked at all the other cars in the race and figured out what they did, and there's some really interesting stories going on, so I'm going to actually focus on the race as a whole rather than just my perspective on the race. Now, to give some much needed context, this is a 10-lap race around Silverstone on Forza Motorsport 2, and there are 5 other cars in the race against me. Now, the key difference between this and any other race that I might have joined at the time of doing this was that it was 10 laps and damage was also on. Now that is quite serious. You're walking into a serious race when it's 10 laps long. Most races are just 2 or 3 laps on the game, and for damage to be on, that's pretty major, so that doesn't normally happen. So yeah, this is quite a serious race, and that's why everyone was quite cautious at the start, as you saw in that first lap, because nobody wanted to smash up the cars. So you've now seen the first lap and a half from my perspective, just like you would any other video in this series. But now we're actually going to go back and look at the first lap from other perspectives and explore what happens in the race much more thoroughly. So here we are back on the grid, and in first place we've got Putter McGavin in an Audi R8. In second place we've got the Smaz in the same car, and we've got Kevin GTI 306 in third place. In fourth place we've got Judy 75, who's in the same car that I'm in. Obviously, as you saw, we're in 5th place, that's me. And in 6th place we've got Le Mans 730, who we're actually going to watch the start of the race with. Also, some titles are going to pop up in the 2 bottom corners of the video, just to keep you up to date with who we're watching and what lap we're also on. Now, Le Mans 730 and I don't really get that great of a start, but I managed to carry the speed right around the outside of the corner and end up passing Judy 75 into the first corner. The top 3 managed to keep all the positions, but as you saw there, Kevin GTI goes into the back of the Smaz and ends up coming back onto the track in 5th place. So the leader is still Putter McGavin, and he's trying to fight off the Smaz, who's coming at him quite hard. I'm in 3rd, Judy 75 is in 4th, then we've got Kevin GTI and Le Mans 730. Now coming down to Club Corner, Putter McGavin takes a defensive line but ends up running too wide, and that allows the Smaz and myself to get through. Now Judy 75 does try to get through just there, but doesn't manage to do it, so right now Putter McGavin has lost 2 places. We ride on board with Judy 75 now, and she does outbrake Putter McGavin, but also just gives him a slight nudge going into that corner and knocks him off the track, so Putter McGavin is now in 4th. But then he makes another mistake right here, and that puts him right down to the back of the grid as the last 2 pass him, and he subsequently quits the race. So we'll see that little section with Kevin GTI again. As you can see there, Judy 75 has just managed to overtake Putter McGavin, and as you'll see down here, he's all over the place, ends up going off the track and subsequently quits out. Now Kevin GTI is now in 4th place, but makes a mistake here on his own, which allows Le Mans 730 to get through, and Kevin GTI is effectively now in last place. We'll also see just in a few seconds how the Smaz loses his first position to me by simply just outbraking himself and running a bit wide. I also run wide, sort of following him to get through, but I managed to hold on to it, and that's me in first place. Now I have to say that at this point this is a high quality race. When I'm racing at this, I was thinking, well, these are quite good people. I've stepped into quite a good online race here. With the 10 lap variety, there's no damage, nobody is actually hitting each other, and as you can see on this mini map of what's happening after the first lap, we are all quite close together after one lap. That doesn't normally happen on this game, and especially on online races. So yeah, it is quite a high level race, and I was just, you know, trying to focus on staying ahead of everybody basically. But that turned out to be an easier job than what I thought it was going to be, because as you can see here, the Smaz on lap 2 ends up spinning off by just clipping the inside of the corner too much. Judy 75 manages to get by, as does Le Mans 730 and Kevin GTI, so the Smaz is right down in last place. However, Kevin GTI also goes off, not quite to the same extent, but as we come back on board with the Smaz, you'll see that he does actually pass Kevin GTI straight away again, so the Smaz is now back into 4th. But by the end of lap 2, he has actually managed to catch up to Le Mans 730 as well, which shows that he does have some inherent pace, and you know, if he hadn't have gone off, he probably would have still been challenging me at the front by this point. But yeah, he did go off, so now what he's doing is trying to catch up, trying to make a comeback. He was in last place, he's just trying to see what he can get from that, and essentially that's what I would be doing anyway. So he manages to carry a lot more speed through the exit of that last corner and overtakes Le Mans 730, which means that he's basically gone from 2nd to last and back to 3rd in one lap. Now I've left this little start of lap 3 in here because Le Mans 730 does an absolutely beautiful line around Copse, but then eventually starts to lose time on the Smaz, who goes on after Judy 75, who is in 2nd. So yeah, I just left that in because it was a beautiful line around Copse by Le Mans 730, and I just enjoyed watching it, to be honest. But here we are at the end of that lap, where the Smaz has put in another very good lap time, and has caught up to Judy 75. So this is the start of lap 4, and he's right on the tail of Judy 75. But this is actually where the Smaz starts to encounter some problems, because as you see here at the mid part of the lap, he hasn't managed to get through quite as easily as he did with the other cars, and that's because Judy is just a more solid racer in a better car. Now the Ferrari that myself and Judy are in are better in the corners than the Smaz's car, whereas the Smaz's car tends to be quite a lot quicker on the straights. But he just can't get past Judy quite as easily, and as we come on to lap 5 here, at the midpoint of the lap, he's still behind and losing time, and inevitably he makes a mistake just probably through frustration of not being able to get by. So yeah, we're now at the halfway point through the race, and the Smaz has ended up losing more time to Judy and myself. So we're back on with me at the end of lap 5, and you're going to see in a minute a little graphic again to show where we all are at the exact midpoint of the race. Now I managed to extend my lead even more. I was only 1 second ahead of the Smaz after the first lap. Now I'm 16 seconds ahead of Judy, 22 seconds ahead of the Smaz, and as you can see, Le Mans 730 isn't far behind him either, so it's quite tight in that mid pack with Kevin GTI at the bottom. But what you're going to see now is a comparison between the lap 6 of each of the top 3 races. Now, for the purposes of this comparison, we all cross the start line at exactly the same time, but obviously in reality I'm a lot further up the road than Judy, and Judy's a bit further up the road than the Smaz. But for the purposes of this, you'll be able to see the 6th lap of each of the top 3 races all at the exact same time. Now at the minute I'm quite a bit ahead because I've basically taken the first few corners a lot better, but as you'll see when we get onto the straights, the Smaz does start to sort of bring the time back a bit, mainly because his car is just faster in a straight line than mine and Judy's, whereas mine and Judy's is quicker in the corners. But you know, as you can, if you're looking at each of the laps, you'll see that Judy isn't quite as refined as the Smaz is when it comes to hitting apexes, using all of the road, that sort of thing. And then again, the Smaz isn't quite as good at doing all that as I am. But the Smaz's car is a lot more forgiving because it is quicker in a straight line, whereas when you've got a car like the Ferrari, which relies on you to have the most speed through the corners you possibly can, if you're not getting that speed through the corners, you're going to lose time. Whereas the Smaz can sort of, he can take a corner a bit wide, but make up a bit more time on the straights because he'll have more speed through there. So we've all just rounded the last corner, and as you'll see here, I managed to get to the start line first, 0.9 of a second quicker than the Smaz, whereas Judy is a further 2.2 seconds behind that, which means the Smaz has managed to catch up quite a bit on that lap. And as you can see here, by the end of the next lap, after another good lap by the Smaz, he's right on the tail of Judy once again. Now, just to go back to those lap times, a 1:30.0 for the Smaz was actually his third quickest lap of the entire race, but every single lap that I did in the race was quicker than that. So it just puts into perspective the kind of consistency and why I'm in the lead and have been in the lead for so long. My lap of 1:29.1 was actually my second fastest lap of the race, but you know, it is quite close. But anyway, getting back to the action, as you've seen there, the Smaz has managed to overtake Judy 75 finally, and Judy 75 ends up completely losing it. I don't know what she was thinking here, but she just completely cuts the corner, ends up hitting the outside of the next corner, just completely messes up, loses her head, and I guess, you know, it was inevitable that the Smaz was going to catch up eventually, but I never really expected that Judy 75 would have quite a capitulation as bad as this. She makes yet another mistake right here, and that allows Le Mans 730 to even get past her as well. So it is quite close between these two right now, but Le Mans 730 I think is just generally a better driver. He just happens to be in a worse car, and he manages to hold on to that third place quite easily, because later on in the lap Judy also makes a mistake herself. So that Judy has completely lost it there. She's gone from second to fourth, and that is where she ends up. But we're back on board with the Smaz now, and we're on the second last lap of the race. Now the reason I've put this in, and we're going to see the whole lap, is because this is the Smaz's quickest lap of the race. He gets a 1:28.6. Now compare that to the lap that you've just seen in the comparison. He got a 1:30.0, so this is a full 1.4 seconds quicker than that lap you've just seen. And incidentally, his second fastest lap was a 1:29.5, which was done on lap 7 when he was catching up to Judy 75. So he's done his quickest laps when he's been catching up to people. But yeah, this is his quickest lap of the race, and I wanted to put it in because it'll give you a comparison to look at when you see the final lap of the race, which will be from my perspective, and you'll be able to see the difference in how we go about building up our laps basically. And speaking of lap times, I've just put up on the screen there every single lap time from me and the Smaz. Now the one thing that should stand out is the consistency that I had compared to him. As I was saying earlier, his 1:30.0 in lap 6 was actually his third best lap, but every single lap that I did was quicker than that apart from the first. So yeah, it just goes to show that you know, you need that consistency. You can be quick over one lap, but if you're not going to have that consistency, you're not going to be able to do anything. And I managed to get 1:29 for every single lap apart from the first. Well, the first and the last, as the eagle-eyed among you will have spotted. We're coming on to the last lap now of this 10-lap race, and we're back on board with me. And at this point during the race, you know, I'd pretty much taken it easy. I'd done consistent 1:29s. I was just, you know, controlling the race, not really putting too much pressure on myself or anything like that, because I knew I was way ahead. But when it came on to the last lap, I wanted to push a bit more, you know. I was way ahead. I could take more risks because I knew I was still going to win the race anyway, and I wanted to see just what kind of lap time I could get. Now I didn't know at the time that the Smaz had just done a 1:28.6, but I nevertheless just wanted to see the best lap time that I could get, and I ended up on this lap getting a 1:28.3, so it was very close between our best lap times, but I did manage to get that best lap right at the end, which was quite nice. And while you enjoy this last lap of me, I just want to say that I've really enjoyed doing this video. It is coming to an end now. This is the last lap of the race, but it's been such fun going through the whole race as different people and seeing different perspectives throughout a race rather than just looking at my own, and appreciating a race for the whole thing rather than just what I did within it. And you know, it's just been so much fun to go through it and edit it and look at everything that there was to look at and present to you guys everything that you've seen here, you know, all the lap times, all the different camera angles and the comparisons. It's been an absolute nightmare to edit, and I'll leave a link down below in the description so you can see a screenshot of what it looks like. But yeah, it's been just so much fun, and this is why I really love motorsport and racing in general. But the race has officially ended, so here is the final little graphic that shows you exactly where everyone was, and it's quite spread out, to be honest. I mean, it's surprising that over a 10-lap race nobody got lapped, and that's quite rare to even to have a 10-lap race. But for no one to be lapped, it showed that everyone was a good racer in this lobby. I did end up about 32 seconds in front of the Smaz, and then, you know, Le Mans 730 was a bit further around. Duty 75 was almost getting caught by Kevin GTI by the end, but everyone was on the lead lap, and that was really good to see, I thought. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. It's been really fun to do this one, and I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did making it. If you enjoyed, you know, have a look at some of my other Forza Flashback videos, or like it, subscribe it, comment, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching, guys.